were let down, and big businesses coming in and offering the same types of things that these small businesses were offering. I'm very happy to see that now there's new interest in what is happening on 8th Street, particularly as it pertains to safety. We've had some safety issues here on 8th Street, and I'm very happy to know that our mayor is really enthused and working to elevate that situation. Also, I would be amiss to say, if I didn't say, that we are in a time when we have an administration that has been particularly hostile to the people of the District of Columbia. It's not the first time, but unlike some people, I really want to thank the mayor for all her efforts to look out for the interests of the districts of the district, for district residents. We know that she was between a rock and a hard place, and that the federal government, unfortunately, has not always been interested in what was happening with our district residents, because they're looking out for their constituents in their states. And until we are a state, this will continue to happen as long as they have control of our budget. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
Thank you. Well, good morning. I want to thank Ms. Halliburton for being here. I also want to acknowledge that we're joined by our Deputy Mayor, Lindsay ABCA, MPD Chief Jeffrey Carroll, Fred Musali of the Alcohol, Beverage, and Cannabis Agency, Ward 6 Council Member Charles Allen. But before we get into today's discussion, I want to offer my prayers and condolences and just express how truly heartbreaking we all are at MPD and in DC government and in many communities around the district on the death of our officer, Terry Bennett. Terry, as has been discussed, was a valued member of MPD, a graduate of Ballou High School, or should I say a supporter of Ballou High School and the young people at Ballou, and he will be truly missed. Officer Bennett was killed in the line of duty. He was a loving and courageous father, husband, officer, and coach, and we're devastated by his loss. So please, if you would, join me in just a moment of silence for Officer Bennett. Thank you. So today, as Ms. Halliburton mentioned, we are on the beautiful 8th Street Northeast corridor to announce some very significant progress that we have made in keeping our community safe and healthy. In 2024, ABCA investigators and MPD's Violent Crime Suppression Division began a joint enforcement operation to close down illegal dispensaries that put our community at risk. Since that operation began, the teams have closed, today we're announcing, 100 establishments that were illegally selling narcotics in D.C. In the process, they also recovered about 12 firearms. This effort is about keeping our community safe and healthy, whether illegal narcotics are sold at licensed cannabis dispensaries or at unlicensed establishments. It's also about protecting the businesses that are doing the right thing. We have legal medical cannabis shops in D.C. The cannabis at those shops is tested and regulated. In fact, during the early stages of this enforcement initiative, we offered support to businesses that were interested in becoming legal. About 95 businesses chose that path. This is an issue we've heard about from the community. In fact, on H Street, we heard it pretty loudly because H Street had been targeted by these illegal operations. In particular, 8 shops have been closed down. People, as you've already heard and know well, want thriving businesses in their neighborhoods. And we want that too. So I want to thank everybody who has been involved in making sure that 8th Street is thriving, that we're focused on clean and safe activities, that we work with the 8th Street Main Street, who I know is here today, to attract the types of businesses and events that we want. I also want to thank all of the property owners. About a year ago, I convened a regular meeting of the property owners on 8th Street to talk about illegal businesses, safety, but more than that, to talk about how we would look at the zoning regulations and our planning initiatives to make sure that 8th Street was receiving the attention it needed. And last year, we funded a small area initiative that is being spearheaded out of our office on planning. With that, I want to turn to Councilmember Allen, followed by Director Musali and Chief Carroll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good morning, everybody. It is a very momentous moment. I'm going to wait just 1 second. Clearly marking the 100th closure of an illegally operating shop is substantial, and I'm really glad that we are here. And I think it's important that we're here on H Street, where as the proportionate number of these illegal shops that popped up, many of them right here on these 2 blocks. These illegal shops were proliferating not just on H Street, but across DC. And I know I was frustrated, my neighbors were frustrated, our businesses were frustrated. But beyond just being annoyed, these illegal shops, frankly, I don't think they were businesses in any sense of the word. They were largely cash operations selling totally untested cannabis grown outside the district, sometimes laced with dangerous and even deadly drugs, and it was not uncommon to find weapons on the premises. They operated without permits, without following the laws, without following regulations that every other legitimate business was following. So 2 years ago this month, I wrote and passed through the council emergency and then permanent legislation that granted ABCA the authority to close and padlock them if they did not take the steps to begin operating lawfully and to come into compliance with DC law. Director Musali and his team at ABCA, in partnership with MPD and others, I think have done a phenomenal job in closing down these shops and when necessary, even going after landlords who signed leases with them. In doing so, they are protecting consumers, protecting residents, protecting communities, and those individuals who do choose to safely consume can have confidence in a tested and trusted cannabis and help create business opportunities for DC residents trying to enter that market, reducing the overconcentration that we saw of some of these shops on important commercial corridors, and frankly, resetting the playing field for legitimate businesses. So ABCA has now shuttered 100 illegal shops, 16 of which were in Ward 6. We can note this without also commenting, though, that one of Congress's longest running intrusions into DC local affairs has been the congressional rider that is effectively banning a safe and regulated recreational market for cannabis. This came after voters overwhelmingly passed it as a ballot initiative, and it's remained even as many other states have set up their own legal and recreational markets, including, ironically, our neighbors in Maryland, where the primary author of the rider's champion, Andy Harris, resides. That rider creates a dangerous and illegal situation where shops popped up seemingly on every corner, and it's created public safety dangers for our surrounding neighborhoods and our city. I think it's also important to know that these illegal shops also propped up high commercial rents that impacted all of our other businesses as well and burdened local small businesses on these corridors, creating dangerous situations and higher costs for everybody. It's had to change. I'm really grateful that we had a great partnership with our mayor to focus on this, and the partnership that we had with ABCA, Director Musali and his team, and their partners with MPD to make a meaningful impact. And it is a remarkable day to note the 100th closure of our illegal shops And again, a kudos to all of those that are actually operating legal, licensed, tested, and trusted businesses, just like we might have one down the block. Thank you, everybody.
Good morning. For those who don't know me, my name is Fred Misali. I am the Director of the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Administration. I would like to thank Mayor Bowser and her leadership team for their support in reaching this significant milestone as we announce the 100th closure of an illegal cannabis business in the district. The mayors and the councils, as Councilmember Allen mentioned, enactment of supporting legislation expanded ABCA's enforcement jurisdiction to allow the district to serve as a model jurisdiction for combating and closing illegal cannabis establishments that operate outside the law and undermine our community safety. This enforcement initiative being discussed today also prioritizes patient safety. Products sold in the unlicensed market are often untested, unregulated, and frequently mislabeled regarding potency and contaminants. In contrast, licensed retailers provide products that have undergone rigorous laboratory testing to ensure that they are free from harmful pesticides, heavy metals, and molds. The district now boasts a robust and diverse network of licensed retailers that are located across all 8 wards that both district residents and non-district residents alike can visit, that offer regulated products and contribute directly to the district's economy. Open and operating licensed establishments in the district are listed on the agency website at abca.dc.gov. That's abca, abca.dc.gov. The district's enforcement efforts in combating and closing illegal cannabis businesses have strengthened our medical cannabis program. DC's legal medical cannabis program had a record-breaking month in December 2025 with overall monthly sales for cultivation centers, manufacturers, and retailers eclipsing $9 million for the month of December for the first time in the program's history. Licensed retail sales totaled $5,798,379 for December 2025, which is also the program's highest monthly retailer sales amount on record, and that can be tied directly to the enforcement actions we're talking about here today. District law now allows district residents aged 21 years of age and older to access the legal market through a self-certification option to indicate their medical need, where residents can register for a medical cannabis card online and gain the ability to purchase from a licensed retailer immediately upon submitting an application and being issued a digital registration. The district's medical cannabis program also welcomes visitors and non-residents. Visitors can shop at our licensed retailers by either presenting a valid medical cannabis patient registration from a state or territory extended reciprocity by the district, or by applying for a temporary non-resident registration online at the ABCA website. The community can contact ABCA to report illegal drug activity to help ensure that our neighborhoods remain safe and that the legal market thrives. If you suspect a business is operating an illegal cannabis establishment, please report it anonymously via the ABCA online complaint form found on ABCA's website. Your tip will allow us to take swift action to protect community safety and public health. Finally, I'd like to thank Supervisory Investigator Jason Peru, who's here today, and his team, MPD, DC Health, the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection, and OAG for their hard work in reaching this milestone. I'd like to turn things over next to Interim Chief of Police Jeffrey Carroll, who has been an invaluable partner in this effort. We couldn't have done this without MPD. Thank you, Chief.
Good morning. Thank you, Director Musali. I am Jeff Carroll. I'm the Interim Chief of the Metropolitan Police Department. Before I begin my remarks today, I want to express my heartfelt condolences to the family and friends of Officer Terry Bennett. As the mayor said, Officer Bennett lost his life in response to a traffic crash that occurred on the 23rd. So please keep the family and friends of Officer Bennett in your thoughts and prayers as we travel through this difficult time for them. This morning, I want to thank the mayor and the deputy mayor for inviting me to speak today. As the mayor mentioned, this effort is a true partnership, and it represents MPD's commitment to working with partner agencies across all of government to make our community safer. In these investigations, members of MPD's Violent Crime Suppression Division work together with their counterparts at ABCA to determine the presence of illegal products in establishments. Our investigators join ABCA when these closure notices are delivered, and they recover illegal material present within the business. We're proud that this joint effort has resulted in the recovery of more than 3 tons of THC edibles, more than 700 pounds of marijuana, nearly 300 pounds of THC vape cartridges, 90 pounds of illegal mushrooms, and over 50 pounds of mushroom edibles. Our investigators have also made 56 arrests during these closures. We're proud that each closure has been effected without incident. By conducting these operations, we're assisting our partners in ABCA to ensure that licensed businesses are compliant with DC law. But we're also identifying and shutting down businesses that have no license to sell these products to our communities, and they're essentially functioning as drug dealers. That was the case with our 100th closure that occurred on New Year's Day, where we shut down an operation being run out of a private home. A grow operation was found inside of the home, and several marijuana plants were recovered. Our investigators made 3 arrests for distribution and possession with intent to distribute marijuana, along with weapon charges after a rifle and a shotgun were recovered from the location. As the mayor mentioned, we recovered 12 firearms in the first 100 closures. We know that these locations and those operating them can be drivers of gun violence, increasing the urgency to shut them down. As you can see on some of the posters that we have here, many of these products are wrapped in colorful plastic designed to lure in children or teenagers. We've recovered chocolates and sodas laced with marijuana, and in some cases, also products laced with methamphetamines. We've had instances where businesses we shut down sold illegal edibles to young people, resulting in them becoming ill. This represents our gravest concern: illegal businesses preying on our young people to get them hooked on illegal products. I want to thank the women and men of the Violent Crime Suppression Division for their superior work and their dedication to this effort. And I'd like to thank Director Musali and his team for their partnership. The Metropolitan Police Department will continue doing everything we can to make our communities safer. And we are committed to working with our partners to identify and shut down businesses harming our communities. And with that, I'll turn it back over to, I believe, the mayor.
Thank you. Well, once again, I want to thank all the partners, and you heard Fred's detailed account of the operation over the last couple of years that are leading to more businesses operating according to our regulations, other illegal businesses being put on notice and shut down. So with that, we're able to take a few questions. Yes.
On topic, probably for the chief, of any of the 12 firearms that have been recovered, have any of those been linked to other crimes, specifically violent crimes? Were any of them ghost guns? And can you just give us any kind of highlight or rundown on of the people who were arrested, what they were charged with?
Sure. So, specifically which guns, if they're ghost guns or that, I don't have that information. We can definitely follow up with you on that. As far as the charges, in many cases it's distribution or possession with intent to distribute marijuana or mushrooms in many cases. Also, there have been some cases where there are other drugs that are located within the establishments.
Thank you.
Yes. Anything else? Yes.
Mayor, can you comment about the shooting in Minneapolis, and there were protests outside headquarters here? Your thoughts on cooperation with ICE in light of what's happened?
I'm not gonna go down that road with you, and I can only tell you what I know from most of the news reports about what happened in Minneapolis and what I saw. And to me, it just is reflected when you have people who are unaccustomed to urban policing trying to police in an urban environment. And what it looked to me like very bad, and I'm not a police officer, I'm not in law enforcement, but what I saw was completely avoidable, and a woman died. Who else? Who hasn't? Yep.
Yes, Mayor, I was just wondering, obviously I know you guys gave your condolences to the family of Officer Bennett. Is there anything you feel like should be done to make it more safe for officers to assist on a major highway like 695 to avoid this happening to anybody else's family?
I wish I could tell you we could avoid traffic crashes. I can't talk about the investigation right now, but MPD is investigating those circumstances. Yep.
Mayor, Mayor, a question for you and for the interim chief. There's a new council committee report calling for the both of you to rescind executive orders on MPD immigration enforcement cooperation. Would like your response to that.
We don't have any comment on that. Anything else? Yep.
Can I ask Chief Carroll, can you elaborate on the loss of an officer like Officer Bennett on the department? Here he was not only in his job, but seemingly going over and above to help that stranded motorist, and lost his life because of that.
Sure. I mean, anytime you lose an officer, obviously it's challenging for the department overall, but in this case, it's even more so. Officer Bennett was struck on the 23rd, and since that time, he's been in the hospital for these past several weeks, and with that, we've had officers across the department that have come there to spend time with him, to spend time with his family. It's just very challenging overall, but when you go through these times, it's hard. The officers still have to come, they still have to go to work, people that work with him day in and day out, so it can be very challenging. One of the things that we focus on doing is making sure that our members have access to our chaplains, to our employee assistance program, to have the resources they need, because these can be a challenging time, especially when you still have to go forward and you still have to respond to traffic crashes and you still have to respond to calls for service. So that's why I just ask if everyone can really just keep his family and the officers, the members of the Metropolitan Police Department, their thoughts. Everyone really does appreciate that, and it does mean a lot to them.
Yes.
Could you just talk briefly about the life and legacy of Officer Bennett? He seemed like he really went above and beyond in terms of reaching out and being a part of the community.
Yeah, Officer Bennett, from all intents and purposes, everyone I've spoken to, my interactions, he is just a kind and friendly person. He's a good-hearted person who grew up here in the city. He helped out with coaching basketball here in the city. He loved the Commanders team, I can tell you that, and his family did. I mean, he's just an all-around what we want in an officer, to be out in the community, to serve in the community, to be friendly, to interacting with people. And that's why it's such a great loss. We talk about the impact on the department. He's one of those people, when you talk to the officers, anything you needed, he was there. He was there with a smile. He was out there. And when he got struck, he was just out there doing his job, putting out flares for a traffic crash. So it's immensely a huge loss to the department.
Okay. Yes.
Chief Carroll, I just didn't know if you have an update on the multi-vehicle crash that happened downtown yesterday. We were hearing that it was a possible police pursuit. Is there any confirmation on that?
Sure. So yes, yesterday afternoon there was a crash that occurred right in 16th and L Street Northwest. In that crash, there was a vehicle that the initial information we have, and obviously this is under investigation, not only by our major crash unit, which handles all serious and fatal crashes, as well as our internal affairs division. But we do know that officers did attempt to stop the vehicle. The vehicle did flee from the officers. A short time later, that vehicle did strike a vehicle, which then struck a pedestrian and another vehicle. So there was about 4 cars that were actually involved. There was a pedestrian who was struck on the scene, and he was pronounced deceased. Officers from MPD did arrive on the scene shortly thereafter. They were able to apprehend that individual that caused that crash, and after consultation with the United States Attorney's Office related to the crash, he was charged last night with murder 2 as it relates to that collision.
Chief, can you talk about, after what happened yesterday in Minneapolis, we've had 2 somewhat similar shootings involving federal agents here in D.C. that thankfully were not fatal here. But can you assure the district residents that what we saw happen there won't happen here, that somehow you guys are working with the federal surge to see that doesn't happen?
I mean, I think the mayor already kind of spoke to it, but I think that's the importance of, a lot of these individuals, they don't work in urban policing. So us working with federal authorities in the policing operations, being out there, actually helps us to make sure that we can work in those areas to help control what's going on. Obviously, I can't assure you of anything. Obviously, I can assure you, every situation is different, right, that officers encounter out there. But I think having the relationship and having the federal authorities working with the officers does help to mitigate some of the challenges that we have with that.
And then can I follow up? I've asked this before since you've taken this role, but now that you've been in the role for a little while, have you made a decision whether or not you will rescind Chief Smith's executive order when it comes to cooperation at traffic stops with immigration enforcement and federal agents?
Yeah, I think the mayor already kind of touched on that too. But right now, we're still evaluating everything. I think I'm 3 days into the role here as interim chief, so we'll continue to evaluate the policies and kind of see what the best path is forward.
Yes. Thank you. I'm Jenny Gathert with Washington Post. One question for you, Chief Carroll, and one question for the mayor. Chief Carroll, Brooke Pinto and the rest of the DC Council sent former Chief Smith a letter in December with the January 9th deadline asking a ton of detailed questions, including about how many times MPD had provided information to ICE under that executive order that Mark just asked about, and a bunch of other questions about local federal coordination. Do you plan to respond to that letter?
Yeah, we're evaluating the letter as we have since it came in, and we do plan to provide a response.
And Mayor Bowser, you had previously said that you were working on getting HSI off the task force that jointly patrols with MPD. What has happened there? What's the update?
I think and I know there's a lot of continued attention on HSI. I know that there's some purposeful conflation of the entire task force as it relates to immigration enforcement. And what I've said before stands, and we will continue to work to have only DOJ agencies on the task force. And to the extent that HSI or any other agency is out in the community, they are out in the community without MPD every day. And so I think it's like everybody needs to be clear. If you don't want federal ICE or immigration enforcement, the place to go is to the Congress. Your newspaper reported just the other day about thousands and billions being spent to hire more ICE agents. If we don't want ICE in our communities, we have to stop funding ICE. And that decision isn't made here. It's made at the Congress. And that's what has to happen. You can ask me 1,000 questions. You can send 1,000 questions to the chief about ICE. ICE is patrolling American cities. If we don't want that, the Congress has to stop funding ICE, because thousands of agents who are untrained to police in urban environments are on our streets. That's where the questions should be placed. Thank you, everybody.
Mayor Bowser, would you please come in and handle
I'm the best.